Welcome back to ONYX Financial Track. We're still talking about the vendors module, and the first screen that we're taking is AP parameters. We've already covered the first tab, which was account payable system, and now we'll move on to the second tab, which is advanced options. First variable is connect item by vendor mandatory. If we enable this option, then we will not be able to save the transaction unless we link the vendor to the item. Next variable, and that one is add sales price from purchase invoice. This one puts the selling price of the item according to the purchase invoice. Check item cost limit in purchase order. In case we've set limits for the cost of the items, then when you activate this variable, the system will show you these limits in the purchase order transactions. Enter description mandatory, and then mandatory determine difference number and determine invoice number for previous year mandatory. If you turn on these three variables, then you cannot save the transaction unless you provide the required data for all of these three fields. Use purchase return without determine invoice number. This variable will allow you to create a return for any item without having to specify the purchase invoice number. Connect purchase order with purchase request. We basically cannot make a purchase order without a purchase request. Bill of entry. When you activate this one, the system will generate a certificate that kind of like proves the quality of this item and that the item is up to the standards. Note, by the way, that activating this variable does not have an effect unless you activate the variable use purchases checked from the previous tab. Alright, so then we have paid installments manually. This opens up a screen, and through the screen we can pay installments for the vendors manually. Then we have notify when there is item purchases request not processed. This enables the system to alert you when there is a previous purchase request that was not processed for the same item. Notify when there is item purchases order not processed. It's the exact same idea, but this one is for purchases orders, not requests. Use promissory notes. You can enable that if it works for you. And activating this variable, by the way, automatically opens up the variable after it, which is promissory notes effect in vendor account. And if you activate this variable, then once you create a promissory note, it will directly impact the vendor's account. Enter container number in foreign purchase GRN. This adds a field in the GRN screen where you can type in the container number if you are importing. Allow update vendor in bills. This means that you can edit the vendor in the purchase invoice after you've saved it. And also use the other charge in bills. This allows the user to add other expenses directly on the bill. For example, transportation expenses. Use charges by item periodic. Activating this variable enables us to add expenses linked to all the transactions during a specific period for a specific item. Allow repurchase serial number. If we have a purchase order that has a serial number, then we can use the serial number on more than one invoice. Possibility posting taxes to account due. Here we will post the taxes to an account dedicated for that, which is due taxes. Use supplier price lists. Here the system will allow the purchases department to add more or create more than one price list for more than one vendor for the items that you need to purchase. Connect item with more than one vendor. This allows you to select more than one vendor that you can purchase the items from, which means that the item will not be linked to a single vendor. You'll be able to link it to more than one actually. Use service items. Here we can use the purchases for the service items. Show total amount in invoice. This one is pretty obvious. Show total quantity, obvious as well. Show description per item. This adds a column where we can add notes or an explanation for each item individually. As for show item description, We've added data for the items before in the item detail screen. Now this variable adds a column which shows this specific data for each item. Show warehouse in purchase request. Connect purchased invoice with purchase order. This means that we cannot issue a purchase invoice unless we have a purchase order. Show group name in the purchase group. And by group we mean the main stock group. That's the one that will show on the purchase order. Invoice due date, end of month. Here the system will set the due date for all the invoices to be at the end of the month. Show barcode number. This shows the barcode in the purchase transaction screen. Representative code mandatory entered in purchase invoice. This basically will display a field where we can add the representative's code in the purchase invoice screen. Calculate purchase invoice discount from total price after item discount. Show total item price by net. Here it will calculate the total price for all the items after the discount. Auto update vendor price. The system here will update the items prices based on the vendor's latest price. Purchase charge type per item. In the drop-down menu, you will find not used by item by vendor. Use the one that suits your business needs. Charges type by item for warehouses. The options are general or by warehouse. General means that the system will add these charges for all the warehouses in the purchase transactions. But by warehouse means that we can specify a warehouse to add these charges on. Charge calculation method, price or net price. By the way, just to make sure that we're all on the same page here, charge means any additional charges other than the cost of the items we're purchasing. Then we have check connect item by vendor. When you select a specific item in the purchase transactions and we want to link it to a vendor, we'll see the vendors that are linked to this item, not all the vendors. We connect the item with a specific vendor, by the way, from the items detail screen. That's everything for now. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and we'll see you again soon.